So, I finally fucking got it. The after the intro. Oh my fucking god. It just took me an fucking hour to actually set everything up, because now we're actually gonna watch a video. Therefore, I do just have one fucking earbud in my ear. It really pisses me a little bit off, because it took me one fucking hour and I just wanted to actually, make the quick recording, and then I thought like, well, yeah, I thought about actually reacting to some video, which I'm actually gonna do today. I had so much struggle with actually having a video that it is not laggy, because most of the time my videos are actually lagging. Out of various reasons I don't actually know. I seem to have always used a wrong thing, so a wrong way to capture the screen and so on, which is not good, because everything was laggy, everything was broken, everything was shitty. So yeah, I've solved everything is fine, and I hope we can learn something today, and I hope this episode's gonna be just somehow interesting, somehow kind of relevant, somehow different than the other ones. But I think I'll need a little bit of light. I need a little bit of light. 1 second. Now I guess it is a little bit at least better. I'm not fully kinda bright. Unfortunately, I could do just something. Just wait a second. Just let's do it like this. And then we type in that. And then we choose this one, and then we do this. But wasn't the best idea. Let's do it like this. Is this better? Probably not, actually. Now it hopefully is a little bit better. Yeah. Nevertheless. Do I need two of them? No, I wouldn't hear myself. We are going to watch the TED Talk of Tim Ferriss on TED Talks. I do, by the way, hope that the settings and everything is okay, because I've just, tweaked around a little bit with everything, and I really hope that I've just not broken something, but everything should be okay. Everything should actually be the same exact fucking thing than before actually me trying it out. So, this is actually, I'm sorry that I do just have the kind of this thing there. I'm gonna watch it in the cinema mode, because I kind of feel like, okay, I'm not gonna be so present in the video with the face cam and whatsoever. But yeah, let's actually see, and let's try out whether this is good. The audio should be exactly as loud as I am, so this should also be fine, maybe even a little bit louder. If it is the case, I'm very sorry. I've tried it. Maybe let's actually just do it a little bit down. Let's do it like this. I guess this is gonna be okay. I really guess. Normally I'm just really fucking loud, especially on the podcast there I'm really loud. But yeah, so Tim Ferriss and his TED Talk, it's a 30-minute video. I do think it is gonna be okay and pretty good, because I'm gonna stop and talk about various things, react to it. And the beginning, I've actually watched the entire video already, because I was, trying to set everything up while it was running or while it was playing. And therefore I actually know what's happening. And it's gonna shock you, I guess. Well, maybe I fucked it up already. Never mind, let's see. Everything is fluent. That's nice.
So this happy pic of me was taken in 1999. I was a senior in college, and it was right after dance practice.
By the way, because I just recognized it while I was watching the video beforehand. Actually having a Stussy, or I think it's Stussy. It's Stussy or Stussy. It's definitely a designer brand. Stussy, what is on his head, this kind of signature thing. I think they're making actually pretty cool things. I don't know, I'm not really educated in that space, but yeah, he seems to be pretty happy, as he said.
I was really, really happy. And I remember exactly where I was about a week and a half later. I was sitting in the back of my used minivan in a campus parking lot when I decided that I was going to commit suicide. And I went from deciding to a full-blown planning very quickly. And I came this close to the edge of the precipice. It's the closest I've ever come. And the only reason I took my finger off the trigger was thanks to a few lucky coincidences. And after the fact, that's what scared me the most, the element of chance. So I became very methodical about testing different ways that I could manage my ups and downs, which has proven to be a good investment. Many normal people might have, say, 6 to 10 major depressive episodes in their lives. I have bipolar depression, runs in my family. I've had 50 plus at this point, and I've learned a lot. I've had a lot of at-bats, many rounds in the ring with darkness, taken good notes. So I thought rather than get up and give any type of recipe for success or highlight reel, I would share my recipe for avoiding self-destruction, and certainly self-paralysis. And the tool I found, which has proven to be the most reliable safety net for emotional freefall, is actually the same tool that has helped me to make my best business decisions, but that is secondary. And it is...
This is, by the way, something that I quite recognize. Relatively often might be a little bit overdone, but I do just recognize it, that often we can connect things. You know, we connect just the business thing and the things we learn in our leisure time or in our private life and whatsoever. Often we actually can connect information, connect knowledge and those things, which is incredibly great at my point of view, because it happened to me as well. You know, sometimes I just come to conclusions through something that I've just read here, you know, on a podcast, or I've come to a conclusion because I've read something and then suddenly everything made sense because something just insignificant actually happened in my life. Like, okay, I'm going around, something happens or someone says something, and then I'm like, whoa, now everything makes sense, which is incredibly nice, you know, which is really nice when these things happen. And so knowledge in every field, I guess, at least at my point of view, can be very great in terms of it actually being useful for you and other fields in your life.
Stoicism. That sounds...
Sorry for interrupting again. Now I actually know what it is pronounced. Stoicism. I always thought it's like stoicism or something. I always say it like this. Probably those people who knew just really cringed while I was thinking that for just a really fucking long time. But yeah, it's nice to know. But I've actually made some episodes on this, and they've been actually one of the best videos that I've ever made, I guess, in terms of, you know, the views that I got from them. But yeah, let's see along.
Sounds boring. You might think of Spock, or might conjure an image like this. A cow standing in the rain. It's not sad. It's not particularly happy. It's just an impassive creature taking whatever life sends its way. You might not think of the ultimate competitor, say Bill Belichick, head coach of the New England Patriots. He has the all-time NFL record for Super Bowl titles. And Stoicism has spread like wildfire in the top of the NFL ranks as a means of mental toughness training in the last few years.
It's a little bit bad, but
you might not think of
above
the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, George Washington, to name but 3 students of Stoicism. George Washington actually had...
So Stoicism seems actually to be some pretty old stuff, but actually some pretty nice stuff. You know, I always felt like, you know, these are just some philosophers that are just having their own kind of circle, their own small circle, where they just, you know, think about the same exact things and or just think in the same exact way and whatever. But it is actually pretty valuable, and there's actually a lot of things that I've also, I guess, implemented into my life without actually knowing it. You know, but I just, you know, remember quite nothing about what what I was talking there in the episodes that I actually made on the Little Book of Stoicism, as I know by now, which is actually quite a good book. So I pretty much enjoyed it, I guess. There were a lot of sayings in it, you know, about, you know, various things and about those stoicism people, whatever. And they all are great. And it quite reminded me, I guess, on Marcus Aurelius' meditation, which is also just one of the really great books, you know, and a lot of the things, or a lot of the ways he's actually thinking are just really great ways, and I also just kind of do things in this way, I guess. Yeah, let's see.
A play about a Stoic, this was Cato, a Tragedy, performed for his troops at Valley Forge to keep them motivated. So why would people of action focus so much on an ancient philosophy? This seems very academic. And I would encourage you to think about Stoicism a little bit differently, as an operating system for thriving in high-stress environments, for making better decisions. And it all started here, kind of, on a porch. So around 300 BC, in Athens, someone named Zeno of Citium taught many lectures walking around a painted porch, a stoa, that later became Stoicism. And in the Greco-Roman worlds, people used Stoicism as a comprehensive system for doing many, many things. But for our purposes, chief among them was training yourself to separate what you can control from what you cannot control, and then doing exercises to focus exclusively on the former. This decreases emotional reactivity.
Which is something that I've also seen, that a lot of these Stoicism and you know, various other people, this is just a thing and a way of thinking that is just, first of all, pretty good, and I really enjoy it, and I really like it, and I really like the kind of method it is or whatsoever. But it is really one of the things that I think came up the first in the little book of Stoicism as well, which is just focusing on these things that you actually can control, rather than focusing on the things that you can't control. One of my favorite examples might be just the weather. You know, like a lot of people are complaining about the weather and being like, okay, you know, it is so bad, you know, the weather is bad and I just hate my life and whatever. And I always think like, and just because I know it and because I've just read it so fucking often, it's just in my mind, you know, which is a good thing, because I wouldn't remember. I really wouldn't remember if I just, you know, heard it once, if I've read it once or something. I do just really remember it because I've read so fucking often that you can't fucking control the weather. You know, it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. But you can control how you think about the weather. You know, this is the other side. You know, if it is bad weather, you know, if it's raining or just if there's some thunderstorms, even, I don't fucking know. Rather than thinking like, okay, you know, it is so bad, I can't ride my bike right now. I can't just do something that I always wanted to do. Just think about it in a different way, in a positive way, in a way like, okay, you know, I'm pretty happy that it is raining because now I'm not feeling bad for not being outside, so that I now can edit the video. I can just, you know, cut a video for my family, make a present for someone, you know, I don't know, there are so many various things that I guess people actually kind of drag around, like, you know, you always have to do them, but you never do them, because it is what it is. Because we are humans, and maybe it is even only the thing for me, but I don't think so. But let's see.
Which can be a superpower. Conversely, let's say you're a quarterback, you miss a pass, you get furious with yourself, that could cost you a game. If you're a CEO and you fly off the handle at a very valued employee because of a minor infraction, that could cost you the employee. If you're a college student who, say, is in a downward spiral and you feel helpless and hopeless, unabated, that could cost you your life. So the stakes are very, very high. And there are many tools in the toolkit to get you there. I'm going to focus on one that completely changed my life in 2004. And it found me then because of two things. A very close friend, young guy my age, died of pancreatic cancer unexpectedly. And then my girlfriend, who I thought I was going to marry, walked out. She'd had enough, and she didn't give me a Dear John letter, but she did give me this, a Dear John plaque. I'm not making this up, I've kept it. Business hours are over at 5 o'clock. She gave this to me to put on my desk for personal health because at the time I was working on my first real business. I had no idea what I was doing. I was working 14+ hour days, 7 days a week. I was using stimulants to get going. I was using depressants to wind down and go to sleep. It was a disaster. I felt completely trapped.
Which is, by the way, something I know as well. So not like with the stimulus and then whatever and drugs and I don't know. But I always once at the time, and you know, First of all, some people might think like, okay, you know, this girl is just overreacting and she should calm the fuck down or some shit like this. But I think it's just really friendly and it's just really kind of empathetic of her maybe, and just really nice of her, because the thing is, she might have seen and she might have known and she might have recognized how he actually feels. The thing with those people that are actually just doing a lot like him, or I would also consider me just being one of the people that are, you know, actually doing maybe a little bit more than kind of the regular dude. I feel like that we don't actually see. Well, or he, well, I do not want to implement myself there because he was obviously working way more than I was. But I think he wasn't just seeing it. You know, he just hasn't seen what was going on, that he was just fucking with himself, that he was just practically kind of dying without dying, and so on and so forth. It's just really amazing, you know, of his girlfriend, of his kind of something, I would say, to actually tell him, okay, you know, you're allowed to work from here to here, or from this time point. Is it the time point? Is there actually something like this? I don't fucking know. I don't think so. But you're allowed to work from 8, let's say 8 to 5 p.m. Which is something like, it's totally not enough, I guess, especially not for him because he was working 14-hour days. And well, you know, you can't just put everything that you would have done into this kind of day or in this time span, of course not. But it happened to me as well. Like, by the way, I could just do it like, oh, he's loading heavily there. I shouldn't really click into this thing. Maybe I should just, you know, talk there and be there. Even though I would have liked to actually kind of open the window a little bit, you know, or just, you know, make it a little bit bigger so that you can see me a little bit better, I guess. But I guess I just, you know, let it be what it is. I don't know. Well, now it is what I want to do. You know, I've actually done 10 posts beforehand. You know, now I'm doing 8 posts every single day, 8 social media posts on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. I've actually always also started with Tumblr, but I do just have to manually do this, and I always tend to forget about it, and therefore it's just, you know, gone for me. You know, I'm pretty much okay with that. But I was really broken down, you know, not quite broken down. I'm just not gonna make it so dramatical. I wasn't feeling as good as I could, you know, because I was pretty overwhelmed by just actually having a 40-hour school, 40-hour per week school, or being in a 40-hour a week school, or attending a 40. And I'm, by the way, up there, so this might be the reason why I'm just sometimes actually kind of doing this. And my girlfriend actually as well said, like, okay, you know, you're not allowed to actually do 10 posts, you know, because you're gonna break, you know, because she has seen, and something that I kind of missed out on, you know, I didn't want to see it, maybe, you know, I really didn't want to. You know, in the end, now I'm doing 8 posts. Everything's working out quite fine, especially, you know, in my holidays right now that I'm having, which is nice. I'm already actually 2 weeks in, which is just amazing, which is a little bit kind of weird, because you always have to kind of, tell yourself, okay, you're already this amount of just time in, just please like it, just please kind of do something with it or something. And but yeah, you know, let's actually move on, because I'm really not into losing time there, I guess.
And I bought a book on simplicity to try to find answers. And I did find a quote that made a big difference in my life, which was, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality," by Seneca the Younger, who's a famous Stoic writer. That took me to his letters, which took me to the exercise, premeditatio malorum, which means the premeditation of evils. And in simple terms, this is visualizing the worst-case scenarios in detail that you fear, preventing you from taking action so that you can take action to overcome that paralysis. My problem was monkey mind, super loud, very incessant. Just thinking my way through problems doesn't work. I needed to capture my thoughts on paper, so I created a written exercise that I called fear setting, like goal setting for myself. And it consists of 3 pages. Super simple. The first page is right here. What if I, ... question mark. This is whatever you fear, whatever is causing you anxiety, whatever you're putting off. Could be asking someone out, ending a relationship, asking for a promotion, quitting a job, starting a company, could be anything. For me, it was taking my first vacation in 4 years and stepping away from my business for a month to go to London, where I could stay in a friend's room for free, to either remove myself as a bottleneck in the business or shut it down. In the first column, define, you're writing down all of the worst things you can imagine happening if you take that step. And you want 10 to 20. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll give you 2 examples. So one was, I'll go to London, it will be rainy, I'll get depressed, the whole thing will be a huge waste of time. Number 2, I'll miss a letter from the IRS, and I'll get audited, or raided, or shut down, or some such. And then you go to the prevent column. In that column, you write down the answer to.
It may be kinda just let there shine a little bit light on this kind of story. If you can actually say that, I don't fucking know. Never mind. He was talking about London there, and getting a letter from the IRL, I guess it was called. I don't actually know what it is. I don't know what it's all about. But if I remember correctly, and if I just know correctly and or interpret it correctly, you know, because he was struggling so much with his life and actually having the company that he was having, working so much, not feeling good about it, and whatsoever, that he actually had in his mind for just, I think it was actually 7 years. If it was just really a long time. It might have been just several years, it might have been several months, but he actually wanted to make a break for, I think, was it 4 years? Was it a year? It was just as well, or 4 months. I think it was actually 4 months or 1 month. So it definitely wasn't just compared to actually the time he was waiting for actually doing it. It was nothing, so quite nothing. But it still was a lot for actually, you know, you being the CEO of a fucking company and you not being there for just quite some time. The thing that he was just really kind of concerned about is actually, yeah, having his company being shut down and then not having his company any longer and whatsoever, because something happens, because he is not there, something breaks down, the whole thing is on fire and nothing works out because he isn't there. I think it was the podcast or one of his podcasts. I think it just then led to him thinking like, okay, you know, I'm gonna give just some, I'm just building my company in such a way, or just trying to build it in such a way that it's gonna sustain without myself, so that I just what happened right now? Just kind of get myself out of the equation of the whole thing. But yeah, let's see. I think it is just this kind of story. I don't know if it is actually it. I hope at least. I hope. Yeah.
What could I do to prevent each of these bullets from happening, or at the very least, decrease the likelihood, even a little bit? So if we're getting depressed in London, well, I could take a portable blue light with me, use it for 15 minutes in the morning. I knew that helped to stave off depressive episodes. For the IRS bit, I could change the mailing address on file with the IRS so the paperwork would go to my accountant instead of to my UPS address. Easy peasy. Then we go to repair. So if the worst case scenarios happened, what could you do to repair the damage even a little bit? Or who could you ask for help? So in the first case, London, well, I could fork over some money, fly to Spain, get some sun, undo the damage if I got into a funk. In the case of missing a letter from the IRS, I could call a friend who is a lawyer or ask, say, a professor of law what they would recommend, who I should talk to, how had people handled this in the past. So one question to keep in mind as you're doing this first page is, has anyone else in the history of time, less intelligent or less driven, figured this out? Chances are the answer is yes. The second page is simple. What might be the benefits of an attempt or a partial success? So you can see we're playing up the fears and really taking a conservative look at the upside. So if you attempted whatever you're considering, might you build confidence, develop skills, emotionally, financially, otherwise? What might be the benefits of, say, a base hit? Spend 10 to 15 minutes on this. Page 3. This might be the most important, so don't skip it. The cost of inaction. Humans are very good at considering what might go wrong if we try something new, say, ask for a raise. What we don't often consider is the atrocious cost of the status quo, not changing anything. So you should ask yourself, if I avoid this action or decision, and actions and decisions like it, what might my life look like in, say, 6 months, 12 months, 3 years? Any further out, it starts to seem intangible. And really get detailed. Again, emotionally, financially, physically, whatever. And when I did this, it painted a terrifying picture. I was self-medicating. My business was going to implode at any moment, at all times, if I didn't step away. My relationships were fraying or failing. And I realized that inaction was no longer an option for me. Those are the 3 pages, that's it, that's fear setting. And after this, I realized that on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being minimal impact, 10 being maximal impact, if I took the trip, I was risking a 1 to 3 of temporary and reversible pain for an 8 to 10 of positive, life-changing impact. It could be semi-permanent. So I took the trip. None of the disasters came to pass.
So I don't know if you heard that just correctly or kind of sufficient or whatsoever, but he there was talking about like, okay, actually kind of re-evaluating the whole situation, you know, in a negative way, in a positive way, or on a negative and positive scale, kinda. And actually kind of the quick version of it might have been, or is, even though he might be heading there to something different as I'm just watching there, but what I was thinking about is actually kind of evaluating like, okay, you know, how bad is the worst case scenario and how good is the best case scenario? And if the best case scenario is at 10 out of 10 and the worst case scenario on a negativity scale is a 2 out of 10 on negativity, of course you're gonna just try to do it, and of course you're gonna do it because the positive potential or potential outcome is so way higher and just is way better than the negative is negative. Yeah, this was I thinking about, but I know this concept as well. I don't remember it completely, but we'll see.
There were some hiccups, sure. I was able to extricate myself from the business. I ended up extending that trip for a 1.5 years around the world, and that became the basis for my first book that leads me here today. And I can trace all of my biggest wins and all of my biggest disasters averted back to doing fear setting at least once a quarter. It's not a panacea. You'll find that some of your fears are very well-founded, but you shouldn't conclude that without first putting them under a microscope. And it doesn't make all the hard times, the hard choices easy, but it can make a lot of them easier. So I'd like to close with a profile of one of my favorite modern-day Stoics. This is Jerzy Gregorek. He is a 4-time world champion in Olympic weightlifting, political refugee, published poet, 62 years old. He can still kick my ass and probably most asses in this room. He's an impressive guy. I spend a lot of time on his stoa, his porch, asking life and training advice. He was part of the Solidarity in Poland, which was a nonviolent movement for social change that was violently suppressed by the government. He lost his career as a firefighter. Then his mentor, a priest, was kidnapped, tortured, killed, and thrown into a river. He was then threatened. He and his wife had to flee Poland, bounce from country to country until they landed in the US with next to nothing, sleeping on floors. He now lives in Woodside, California, in a very nice place. And of the 10,000 plus people I've met in my life, I would put him in the top 10 in terms of success and happiness. And there's a punchline coming, so pay attention. I sent him a text a few weeks ago asking him, had he ever read any Stoic philosophy? And he replied with 2 pages of text. This is very unlike him. He is a terse dude. And not only was he familiar with Stoicism, but he pointed out for all of his most important decisions, his inflection points, when he stood up for his principles and ethics, how he had used Stoicism and something akin to fear setting, which blew my mind. And he closed with 2 things. Number 1, he couldn't imagine any life more beautiful than that of a Stoic. And the last was his mantra, which he applies to everything, and you can apply to everything. Easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. The hard choices, what we most fear doing, asking, saying, These are very often exactly what we most need to do. And the biggest challenges and problems we face will never be solved with comfortable conversations, whether it's in your own head or with other people. So I encourage you to ask yourselves, where in your lives right now might defining your fears be more important than defining your goals? Keeping in mind all the while the words of Seneca, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Thank you very much.
Which is actually the case, and which I can actually confirm to some degree. Often we think like, everything is fucked up, everything is just really bad and whatsoever, but in the end, nothing is bad. Oh, I'm sorry. I've clicked the wrong one. Sorry if I've just really kind of, made you go crazy, something. But yeah, it really is the case, because often we think like, okay, everything is so bad, everything is so fucked up, but it is actually not the case. It is quite nothing the case of what we think sometimes. Sometimes it actually is the case. But yeah, this is the end of the episode. I'm just quite evaluating whether I've liked it or not, this kind of way, but it really is just something different, especially because I'm not talking a lot. I was not talking a lot. I was talking a bit. I just brought in what I knew, what I just thought like is interesting, is valuable, is good. One of the things that just might just break the whole kind of situation, or might just fuck with the whole feeling here, is that I've just lost an hour beforehand, which is just, it really kind of pisses me on, to be honest. Even though, like, okay, it is not that bad. It really is that bad, because it was the time quite, in the evening is quite always the time for me kind of just chilling out, and just doing the posts, and now I'm actually getting a bit stressed out, especially because I haven't showered yet. So yeah, it really pisses me on a little bit, to be honest. But yeah, I hope you've liked it. I really hope you have liked it. To some degree, maybe you've learned something, maybe it was good, maybe just the podcast is also fine, whatsoever. I wish you the best health, wealth, happiness, and success, and I was up that you're going to remind yourself on how you gonna be remembered. So basically, your legacy. Yeah, which you can totally control, and which is totally in your hands, but not everyone's gonna like you, and you can't make everyone like you, and this is what it is. It's just, what life is, how people are, kinda. It is what we have to live with, somehow. But yeah, thank you very much for listening and or watching. I see you the next time.